2022 was the best year for space missions in quite some time, following the launch of JWST at the very end of 2021. 2022 saw the telescope successfully unfold and start capturing absolutely incredible images of the infrared universe. We had an incredibly successful start to the NASA Artemis program, which will see them land humans back on the moon before the decade is over, as well as more SpaceX launches than ever. The successful DART mission that proved we can redirect asteroids, which might come in handy for planetary defense one day, and so much more. Now, let's turn our attention to 2023 and see some of the most exciting missions and updates we can expect in the next 12 months. It will include uncrewed moon landings, the first ever commercial spacewalk, telescope launches, missions to strange objects in the solar system, and so much more. Let's start with the space telescopes and probes that will be inspiring us in 2023. The first of these scheduled to launch is the European Space Agency's JUICE mission, which stands for the Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, a classic forced acronym. But this is going to be so cool. It will launch in April 2023. Although, admittedly, it won't actually get to the Jovian system until 2031, but it's going to image and study Jupiter's moons Ganymede, Callisto, and Europa. The reason we're going to all of this effort to study the moons and not Jupiter itself this time is that these are icy moons with very deep oceans below their surfaces, and they're all excellent candidates for life to have developed on them. JUICE will use radar to map these oceans and try to help us better understand if these moons do really recreate the conditions that allowed life to emerge on Earth around the tasty vents at the bottom of the ocean. The mission will also be able to look for evidence of biosignatures on Europa's surface, which are chemicals or compounds that are created abundantly by life. And so the presence of them is a great piece of evidence that life may be present. Following JUICE, another ESA mission called Euclid will launch later in the year. The Euclid mission is now scheduled to launch on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket, possibly as early as July 2023. I have a previous video talking about the drama surrounding which rocket will actually launch this telescope, so check that out if you want more details on that. This telescope will head to the same spot in space as JWST, called Lagrange Point 2, and it will probe the dark universe. It will basically observe billions of galaxies, from nearby to some of the earliest that it's possible to see, seeing how these objects change with distance and time. This will let it study two mysterious components of the universe, dark matter and dark energy. While they aren't as evil as they sound, they are strange things that we don't know much about at all. But hopefully the Euclid mission can start to unlock more properties of these invisible components of our universe. In October, we can then expect the launch of the super cool Psyche mission. This is a probe that will head to a strange asteroid called 16 Psyche, which is very metal rich and might well be the remains of a planet that never finished forming. I have plans to make a full video about this mission because it's very exciting, so stay tuned for more on that one. We do have another exciting asteroid mission to look forward to this year too. NASA's OSIRIS-REx mission landed on a nearby asteroid named Bennu in October 2020. It collected a sample of the asteroid, apparently between 400 grams and a kilogram of material, and it's bringing that sample back to Earth to be studied. The drop-off should happen sometime in September, so we can look forward to directly studying the composition of an asteroid, which is going to be super interesting and offer an insight into the formation of the solar system. The probe will actually then go on to visit another asteroid after it drops the sample off. But again, that mission deserves a longer video all about it. Slightly closer to home, 2023 will see Amazon begin to launch projects for its Project Kuiper, which will be its 3,000 satellite constellation to rival SpaceX's Starlink network. We'll also see some new rockets launch, which might be able to carry future satellites into space, including Blue Origin's big New Glenn rocket and ULA's Vulcan Centaur. Moving to a lunar focus, there are a bunch of private companies that will send probes to the moon and even land on the surface for the first time. These will all be uncrewed, and I think it's going to be a bit of a race in the end. Those in that race include the SpaceX launch Japanese-built Hokuto-R, which will deploy rovers built by Japan and the United Arab Emirates, and I would expect this one to be the first to land on the moon, since it's already launched and should arrive at the moon by April. Other contenders include two US companies called Astrobotic and Intuition Machines, which are both NASA-backed and are scheduled to arrive at the moon at similar times and land to study the lunar environment. There isn't scheduled to be a NASA lunar mission launched in 2023 as part of the Artemis program, but there will still be lots of work happening for that set of missions. The agency will be hard at work to prepare for the Artemis 2 launch in 2024, which will take humans on a journey around the moon. And a really exciting moment this year will be the announcement of the group of Artemis astronauts that could go on that space-breaking mission. We will also see a reveal of the prototype suits that will be used for this mission, which will also be really interesting to see. There will then be landing attempts from the Indian and Japanese national agencies. And the Indian one is especially interesting to me, since their last attempt in 2019 actually crash landed on the moon. So we'll be hoping for a successful landing this time. In 2023, we'll have a lot of private space travel to keep up with too, the most we've ever seen in a year. SpaceX will continue to ferry astronauts to the International Space Station using its Crew Dragon spacecraft. And Boeing is actually scheduled to finally do the same thing after a whole raft of delays to their crewed craft. The pick of the bunch for private space travel though is probably the SpaceX Polaris Dawn mission. It's currently scheduled for March 23. We'll have a crew of 4 commercial astronauts and will orbit the Earth at around 1,200 kilometers, which is higher than any crewed mission since Apollo. The big thing here though is that it will actually feature the first ever private spacewalk, where all of these private passengers will venture outside the vehicle. The final SpaceX thing I have on the list is called Dear Moon, and it will be a crewed mission around the moon on the new Starship rocket. Assuming the tests of Starship go well in the early parts of 23, a star-studded crew of familiar faces will cruise around the moon in what could be an incredible PR move that inspires a lot of people to look towards our closest neighbor. The success of Starship in general will be a huge thing if it happens, as it will be a reusable and cheaper rocket than the SLS system that NASA uses for the Artemis missions, and it could change the way we go to the moon. We might or might not also get crewed launches from Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin, the latter of which is currently banned from launching human flesh due to a failed uncrewed launch in September 22. Of course, we can also look forward to an enormous treasure trove of images, spectra, and data from JWST, Hubble, and all of the current fleet of observatories, both in space and on the ground. If you want to see more details about the exciting things that JWST might be looking at soon, then check out this video that I put out about JWST's first year in space. And at the end of that, I covered some of the most exciting things it will image soon, including Saturn, Uranus, and the best exoplanet candidates that might be habitable. There will be some smaller things happening too, like new science missions being sent to the ISS, new NASA planes being tested, like the X-57 and X-59, and many, many more, including developments of ground-based telescopes too. But none of them explicitly made my list, because I don't think any of them will actually become operational in 2023. Please let me know what you're looking forward to in space this year, and especially let me know if I missed something that you're particularly excited about. Also, do let me know in the comments if there's anything I mentioned here that you think should get a full video all about it, and I'll see what I can do. Why not consider subscribing if you made it this far into the video and you might want to see more content just like this. And be sure to have a great 2023. Until next time, stay safe team. I'll see you soon. Bye!